All right, so tonight, talking about anxiety. So the first thing I want to talk about is what does anxiety look like to us? Okay, in the physical, what are some of the signs that you may be dealing with anxiety? All right. Well, one of the first signs of anxiety is sleep. You just might want to go take a nap or sleep in. Okay. That's one of the signs that lets us know you're probably being anxious about something. All right. Second sign is eating food. You are looking for comfort. Okay. So most people may look to getting something sweet or something that their favorite food because you want to find comfort. And that's why when you are going through periods of anxiety, you may find yourself eating, okay, to comfort you, okay? Another sign that you may be being anxious is a physical sign of that you're looking for affection. It can even go into sex. It's where you want somebody to rub you, rub my back, rub my feet. You may ask, to be cuddled or held, okay? That's another sign that someone is being anxious about something, okay? So these are signs that I'm sure you have had at any given time when you operated or had become anxious about something. The last one is drugs, and this can be prescription drugs or it could be illegal drugs, but a way that you're trying to numb yourself, okay, from whatever it is that you are being anxious about, okay. So that's one of the things that you see that the physical body is showing you that you're in anxiety. Um, another form of anxiety that doesn't necessarily have to always accompany everybody, because everybody doesn't do this, but crying can be a form of anxiety. Just bursting into tears for no apparent reason, can also be a sign of anxiety. You can wear being anxious on your face. Your facial expressions, can be a sure sign that you're anxious about something. Somebody going, "What, is something wrong with you?" Because their face has a look of something is bothering them. Now, what the difference in anxiety and because it's kind of like similar to fear, it's kind of related to fear, kind of can bring fear on, and is that the natural fear that we talked about is kind of direct. It's focused. It's a response to a specific event or object, and the person is consciously aware of it, okay? It's like if someone pointed a gun at you, okay, you would experience fear, okay? If you saw a tornado, forming or coming towards you. So you recognize that you're in fear, and others around you can recognize the fear, okay? Where anxiety is a little different because it isn't always apparent what is triggering you to be anxious, okay? Sometimes the things that you are anxious about, it comes from a subconscious place in your brain that is triggered, and someone with you may not be able to understand why you're having these symptoms of anxiety, because they don't see a wild animal running towards you or somebody just trying to harm you. So because there's nothing seen, in the environment that they're in, they have the tendency to not understand it. Even the person that is experiencing the anxiety may not be consciously aware of why they are being anxious. Okay, is everybody on board with me? Everybody following me so far? Okay, so but you can tell by the person's disposition, the fact that they're wanting to sleep. And you have to really watch that, because that can be a sign of depression too. Okay, So, but they want to, they're sleeping in, and are they're, wanting to, can you go get me some of that double chocolate ice cream, and you're like, okay, what's going on? So they're trying to feed it, they're trying to sedate it, they're trying to get some comfort in it, and they're even trying to take drugs to do what? To numb it. But the best thing to do is to look at it, to see what it is, to examine what it is. It's really something because in studying about anxiety, I heard a doctor say this, and I thought, wow, this is so awesome. But he said that anxiety is one of the most creative emotions that we can have. We can take that anxiety and cause it to be a creative power of energy in us if we don't let that anxiety take us to fear. Okay? So we know what fear is, the terror, the dread, the thing that looks like something is there, but it's not really there, and it's trying to take us to that place that will make us, pull away, get angry, and then sin sometimes, because we'll snap on people, we'll do. So with the anxiety, you want to really understand it. You want to find out what it does, what it's trying to let you know, because it is not a negative thing unless you allow it to be negative. It's something that God has given us, but not for us to allow it to rule our life. Okay, but it is something that we need, and it's very important. And all of the emotions that God gives us, they are for a purpose, but never for the purpose of us being led by them. All right. Okay, so I'm going to again kind of read this definition that I got on anxiety, and this is it says that anxiety is often unfocused, it's vague, it's hard to pin down to a specific cause. Okay, and then there's this form called free floating anxiety, and it's sometimes where anxiety is being experienced in the present, but it may stem from an event or a person that produced pain or fear in the past. But the anxious individual is not consciously aware of the original source of the feeling. Okay, so this lets you know that there are times that someone can be operating in anxiety, but they don't really understand why they're operating in anxiety, why this is really bothering them, but they operate in it. Okay, so there's some types of anxiety that we're going to talk about. Okay, and I think that this is going to also kind of help you understand anxiety. Okay, there's the anxiety that's reality-based anxiety. Okay, that's the first one. And reality-based anxiety is when you actually have something that really happened to you that causes you to have anxiety. Like if you were driving and all of a sudden your car started to get into a skid and you ran into the guardrail. Well, you would experience anxiety from that, and it would be from a real situation that happened to you, okay, that you experienced. It could have been recorded, and somebody could have played it back. Anyone that saw that, they could actually see why you were experiencing anxiety, and they could themselves experience some anxiety because it's actually evident, it's real, okay. Then there's the next anxiety that's neurotic anxiety, and this is an example of an anxiety where it's produced in your imagination, okay? And this can lead into a really dangerous type of anxiety, and this is the one that I think I shared a little bit about with you. I didn't tell you, but it's where you are anticipating something that in your imagination that's going to happen that hasn't happened, but you see it happening, and to you it appears real, but it isn't anything that's real. Okay, so it's like you have an exam to take at school, and you begin to go into this where you anticipate, and all of a sudden this anticipatory anxiety, and you begin to think in your mind, well, I'm just going to fail that exam. That exam's going to be really hard. I know that teacher, and that she's probably not going to give us time to finish it. And I know I'm going to. Then when I fail it, I know I'm not going to go be able to pass the next grade. And then if I don't pass the next grade, then I'm not going to be able to get that job because I'm not going to graduate school. And then you begin to blow and have this big picture that came from nothing that was real. Okay, it was all in your imagination. And I talked about that a little bit because I wanted to let you know that your belief system then gets engaged in this anxiety. And that's why, and that's where the Lord says, be anxious for nothing. That's the anxiety he's talking about. This anxiety right here, where you take your belief system and you begin to picture in your mind and play a movie of something that's going to happen that you have no evidence of, nothing. It's all in your mind. It's called neurotic anxiety. Okay. The next anxiety is called moral anxiety, okay? And this is anxiety where you actually did something wrong, okay? You took some money out of your mom's pocketbook. You knew it was wrong. Now you get an anxiety about it. So you kind of can see, I'm sharing these things, you can see how what anxiety is like, what it is and what it does and what it's like. So, there's the anxiety that's moral anxiety because you knew you were being, aware of something you did not do that was that you did that was immoral, that was not right. Okay. Then there's an anxiety that's called existential anxiety. And this is the anxiety that we can have from being aware of our own death. This is the anxiety that can definitely become fear, and it is the anxiety that the Word of God tells us about, that man was, controlled by the enemy because of the fear of death. Okay, that the unknown. All right, and so it can be triggered just when when you're thinking about something. I mean, maybe you had a parent. That's a good example. Okay, you had a parent that died at the age of 35, and then you're 34 and a half, and all of a sudden your birthday is gonna be coming around the corner. It's a month before your 35th birthday, and all of a sudden you start operating in anxiety. You start not wanting to get up. Or you start, give me some drugs. I just want to, I just don't want to deal with this, the pain, because you have this fear that since your parent died at 35, you're going to die at 35. Now, I know this is really a true source of anxiety because my uncle shared this with me. We were talking one day, and he said, Dixie, your grandfather died at 50. And I didn't know. I was young, and I didn't know my grandfather died at 50. And so we were at the hospital with his youngest brother, and he said, "Now, he's getting ready to die, and he's at the age that my dad died." And I remembered how I was tormented when I was turning 50. I just knew I was going to die. And now here is my younger brother. He was laying in the hospital with colon cancer, and he was in the last stage. He was dying. He says, "Oh my God," So he experienced that anxiety himself. Okay, this I think it's existential. I might be pronouncing that right, but it's EXISTENTIAL anxiety. And it's the existence that you might not exist after this time, or your existence is coming to a close. Okay, so he was saying that he was really afraid. Now here his younger brother is, and my younger uncle did go on to be with the Lord. But the thing is that this anxiety can lead to death. It can lead to death. It can be just that overwhelming that, it can lead to physical death. So these are the types of anxiety that, and I want to pause there and make sure that I give you guys a opportunity to ask any questions. Do I have any questions? Anyone that's joined us, that even if there's not a question, if there's a comment, something that you would like to share on this subject, something that you may have experienced. Yes.
I just forgot what I was going to ask you. I'm sorry, I drew a blank.
Oh, that's all right.
I was going to ask you about, when you're talking about the existential anxiety, is that when they're so afraid they're going to die? Is that when a door is open to the enemy, you're inviting those demons to come in, and then therefore it becomes a prophecy in itself?
Yes, if you begin to speak that thing out and begin to envision it, that's why we're going to talk about what you do with anxiety. When you feel that anxiety, what do you do with it? Instead of you beginning to do it like neurotic, or you begin to take that anxiety and now begin to say, oh, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die. Well, there's nothing that you're basing it on, and it's not like you're sick. It's not like So there's, you know what I'm saying? So you're now you agreed with this, that you are now getting ready to check out, but there's no reality, okay, that is coming from, and this is very, very dangerous, very dangerous. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I do actually. I'm really appreciative of what you're talking about. Honestly, I wish I would have heard this probably about 35 years ago, because I remember probably like when I was, I don't know, about 20, 21, whatever. And I remember like going into the workforce and some of the insecurities I had internally, rejection and so on. And I remember getting into a position where I actually interviewed at a bank. This is the first time I interviewed in a bank at a very young age, and I had the job. I actually interviewed pretty well. And they said, okay, well, the only thing we have for you to do is go take a lie detector test. And, I didn't know anything about that, but I remember, you see on TV, criminals have to go in for lie detector tests and all that other stuff. And I'll never forget taking that, being in the room, and they just asked me some general questions. They were really crazy. But I remember this feeling coming on, and my heart started beating really fast, kind of like cold sweats. I really couldn't concentrate. My throat was cracking. My mouth got real dry. And, I used to call it fear, but it was anxiety. I was actually thinking the worst. I was thinking something negative. And they asked me questions. I'll never forget. One of the questions was, have you ever conspired to rob a bank? And of course, the answer is no. And I said no. And the needle just went off the charts, because inside, again, I just had that feeling. And I've had that feeling, after that. People ask me questions saying, report on your department. And my mind was thinking, oh my goodness, what if I use the wrong word? What are these people thinking about me? They're going to think I'm stupid and all this other stuff. And I'm telling you, the anxiety just gripped me.
Yeah.
It just gripped me. And, again, I'm learning something here, studied out myself, of course, but I'm learning much, much more here. And then and I parallel that to even nocturnal anxiety. Yeah. Where, in our dream realm, we can wake up, and if you ever had this, where you woke up and you're just all this anxiety, sweats, your heart's beating like crazy. I mean, you just feel like you wake up like there's doom, kind of what you're saying. So this is really good to understand it, because if you don't understand it, then you're not going to know what to do with it. Right. So this is really good.
But the thing that you usually want to do with anxiety is that you want to not deal with it. That's why the first thing you see people that do is that they want to go to sleep. It's like you want to numb it, okay? And that's not the best way to deal with anxiety. I mean, it's okay to take a nap so you can focus, but not to where you don't want to sleep. You don't want to get up. You just want to sleep all the time, because then that's when it can turn into something that is dangerous, which is depression. Okay. So, I want to share some things that we do to deal with. We do naturally, we think, to deal with this anxiety, because as we've just explained with these different types, they can be very traumatic, if we allow it. Okay, so this is some things that we do, and things that we should not do. So I'm gonna tell you some things you do and you shouldn't do, but you do. But here we go. All right. One thing is that tendency to want to sleep when we get anxious. Okay. The best thing to do when you're anxious is to stay active. Being passive is not going to deal with situations. I think passivity is the devil's greatest tool that he uses against us. Don't just ignore it. Don't just, I just don't even want to think about it. Stay active. And I mean, stay active physically. Get out, exercise, walk, do something that you stay present. You stay in the present, because usually, unless it is even if it's an anxiety coming from something that really happened to you, being active helps your body. Being physical helps your body. So I was hoping that that someone would be on that is able to talk about the physical body. I was hoping one of my nurses is on. Precious, are you on? Are you able to talk? Okay. I didn't see you there. Are you able to talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So what does activity do for the body? You're anxious. You got some things you just that are really, even if they really happen to you, or even if it's neurotic anxiety, what does physical exercise do to the body? Being active.
So it's going to help. So when you're dealing with anxiety, your body is automatically going to, like, you're going to become short of breath. Your heart is going to start racing. You're going to become restless. When you exercise, it is going to make your body then focus on something, because when you're anxious, like it's kind of unfocused. It's kind of looking, it's pulling for something. It's like a feeling of impending doom. So when you exercise, or when you do anything, when you exercise, when you run, when you jog, when you read, when you do something to focus your energy, it's going to bring your body back into a homeostatic state. So you're going to regulate your heart rate. You're going to give your mind something to focus on.
Right.
So
Good.
it's going to calm you down.
Excellent. Now this is excellent. I asked Precious, and I asked her because I wanted to see, her. She's an actual, a medical nurse, so she's in the medical field. But I wanted to see what she's going to say. Now, isn't it interesting that the things she said very similar to what we talked about with fear last week? She was the how to deal with fear. Very, very similar. Very similar of what it makes the body do, So that's why I said it's similar to what the body experiences from physical fear, is what anxiety. Very similar. So thank you so much, Precious. Thank you for sharing why physically being active is going to help you. Okay. Now, another thing that we've heard, and it's been really like detrimental, is that people say, oh, if you're anxious, go take a drink. Okay. go get a drink, to calm you down. Well, yeah, alcohol will calm you at first. Okay. It'll calm you down at first. It's a sedative. Remember, with anxiety, you're wanting to sedate it. Okay. So yeah, alcohol will sedate it. But this is the problem. Once the alcohol, you get your buzz is gone, your high is gone. Now, here comes all these symptoms that come in from anxiety with a vengeance. Okay. So what happens is that you will, if you rely on that alcohol, then you're going to start and get in and possibly have a drinking problem. All right. So that's why you don't want to deal with alcohol. Oh, just take a drink. There's nothing wrong with taking. No, it's nothing wrong with taking a drink. It's not a sin to take a drink, but it's a sin to be drunk. And what happens is that if you're depending on that to sedate the anxiety, you're going to go back to that. You're going to go back to that. The same with cigarettes. I know what they say, cigarettes have a calming effect. When you take that draw off that cigarette, it just makes the stress go down. And if you're anxious, it relieves that. But then the thing of it is that is what they put in the cigarettes, the nicotine, you know, and the other chemicals that they put in the cigarettes, actually they alter the pathways of the brain. So now you got pathways being altered that are linked to anxiety. Now you got something that's and getting it warped, is in a sense, you know, and you know that's not what you need to do. You know, avoidance is not the way to deal with anxiety. Okay, same thing with coffee. People, oh, let me go get a cup of coffee, you know, and they're like, oh boy, I'm just getting a little anxious. Let me go get a cup of coffee. But if we understand what coffee does, to some people, coffee makes them jittery. With me, it does. It makes me jittery. It makes me nervous. It makes me feel like I need to get up and go run a marathon. So so you don't want to have those things triggering you in your body when you're dealing with anxiety. And then it shows that research shows that caffeine can cause and worsen the anxiety, you know, disorders. So then that means it can cause you to have a panic attack, which anxiety can cause. Okay, and so it can actually cause you to have worse symptoms from the anxiety than if you just, you know, deal with it. Okay, so you don't want to deal with caffeine. All right. Okay. Of course, getting some sleep is good, but when you get to sleep, you're going to have to monitor how you sleep. That means that if you sleep at night. Sleep at night. And I'm not saying you can't take a nap. It's okay to take a nap to refresh yourself. But I mean, when you sleep, you're going to sleep. You need to have your sleep time the same, kind of have your sleep time the same time every night, you know, kind of, oh, I go to bed and I go to bed at 10 o'clock. And that means you go to bed. You don't turn the television on. Boy, I do that. I use television as a narcotic. Turn on TV, I'm out because I'm just totally bored. But no, you shouldn't turn on the television. You shouldn't turn on the radio. You shouldn't start reading your and getting on the social media and all that. You should prepare yourself to go to bed for sleep. Okay, so it's important that you sleep at the appropriate time and you sleep at about the same time every night, you know, so that you can deal with what's going on in your body. Okay, and of course you don't want to have, before you sleep, you don't want to deal with any caffeine, because remember I said what caffeine can do. You know, a lot of people, like I don't know, some people it doesn't bother them, but with me, I just can't. I cannot. If I drink caffeine, I'll be up jittery, ready to do everything I need to not do because I need to be in the bed. So you want to try to stay away from caffeine. Okay, you want to be sure that when you go to sleep, you want your room to be dark and you want your room to be a little cool. You don't, because when it's too warm, you don't sleep well. It makes you wake up. I don't know why, but being in a too warm room isn't good for sleep. Okay, so you want to have the room dark. You want it to be a little cool. But this is something I want to tell you guys that is really, I think, going to bless you. Before you go to bed, especially if you're dealing with anxiety, write down everything. Just keep a notepad by your bed. So before you go to bed, you can write down everything that you've been thinking about that has had your brain bombarded. Okay? Write it all down. I don't know why writing it down helps to, I don't know if it's like, okay, I got it someplace else. I could take it off my mind. You ever heard that saying? Get it off your mind. Well, you know, writing it down, it does. It just gets it off your mind. Okay. So that's good. All right. So these are ways that you can do for your physical body to help you. Another way to help you is to eat right. Okay. Watch your diet if you're going through anxiety. One thing you don't want to do, and I know this is really crazy, and I'm just gonna tell you, you gotta get rid of that sugar, that processed sugar, because that processed sugar is detrimental to anxiety. Okay, so if you, like I told you, you have that tendency, you want to sedate it, you want to feel better, you want to be calm. That's what you want to do, but you can't do it with cigarettes, with alcohol, with sugar. Okay, you got to let those things go. And I'm telling you, what sugar will do to you when you're anxiety. As a matter of fact, sugar actually, anxiety loves sugar. Okay, because sugar has a ability to bring you up high. The thing is that it lets you down low. So now you got that sugar rush that's going on, but it's not good because you then have that subsequent crash afterwards that is very disheartening. All right, so you don't want to eat sugar, a lot of sugar, processed sugar. You just don't want it. It just isn't good for you at all. Okay, so your desire to eat, when you're anxious, to try to bring some comfort, especially with sugar, is not a good thing. All right. Um, One thing that I also read about sugar, and I think you guys will find this interesting, that sugar can weaken your body's ability to respond to stress, and it can trigger anxiety. Okay, to keep you from dealing with the cause of the anxiety. I thought that was really very interesting. You know, so you want to avoid going and getting something sweet after you had a difficult day. You don't want to do that. You want to deal with your day with eating proper foods, not sugar. Okay, not that processed sugar. Okay, because what it's doing is it's actually operating like a drug. Matter of fact, they said when you withdraw from some people, when they withdraw from sugar, they have the same kind of symptoms that a person that's withdrawing from a drug, from being chemically dependent. So you want to cut out sugar, and that may be something that you might want to feel like that sugar makes you feel better. But some of the symptoms when you withdraw from sugar, it will be fatigue. Listen, it sounds like the same thing, from fear, that fight or flight syndrome that you have. You get exhausted afterwards. You get sadness, okay, hopelessness, and worse when you start to withdraw from sugar. So having too much sugar is not good. It causes an imbalance in your brain, in the chemicals in your brain, that will lead you to further take that anxiety into depression. Okay, so we want to understand. You want to not deal with the sugar. You don't want that. You don't want to. If you got problem with sugar, you got to really deal with it, and you got to ask the Holy Spirit to help you. Because what sugar does. Okay, and another thing which Precious kind of showed us about anxiety. You typically you're breathing really fast. That means your heart is beating faster. You want to, if you're experiencing some anxiety, you want to have deep breaths. You want to slow your breathing down, and I'm not sure about why slowing the breathing down is so good. I might go back to Precious or somebody else that might have something they can share about that. But I do know that breathing too fast can cause your heart rate to go up, cause you to get dizzy. It can cause you to get lightheaded, even cause a panic attack. So I didn't know if someone wanted to share about that, Precious or Tasha, or anyone that has something to share about the what happens with the breathing for the body.
When you're breathing quickly, you don't exchange the oxygen and the carbon dioxide effectively, so that makes your blood like less acidic, and it makes you feel lightheaded.
Okay,
So
good,
that's why it's important to breathe in, so you're getting enough oxygen and you're exhaling enough carbon dioxide.
good. If you've ever and then you ever heard a doctor tell you that if you're getting ready to get anxious, say if you're getting ready to get a shot, I don't want to get a shot, I don't like shots, and you tend to start to breathe fast, or you tend to stiffen and the body in the your body, but the doctors say relax, relax. And you're like, why? How can I relax? But these are ways that you have to do so that things that are trying to make you anxious are able not to affect your body. Okay, so even when that anxiety, where you want to breathe fast, no, you want to consciously say, slow down, take a deep breath, breathe in, exhale, and things, and just like Precious, thank you for sharing that, so that your body does not get off balance from your, from this these symptoms that are trying to come a part of your body. Do I have any questions? I do have a comment on the chat, and it says, this is from Gladys. She says, sometimes you can have anxiety from unresolved conflict. That's very true. Very good comment. If you've had some conflict and you resolve it with someone, if you don't, if you you have to watch it, because you can start to have that neurotic anxiety also, that where you start to think, okay, they're never going to speak to me again. I'll never see him again. I'm, crazy die and I don't get a talk. So you have to watch that. Very good comment. Any other comments? Any other questions? Anybody experienced anxiety before? Or is this a subject I'm talking about that nobody has a clue about, except for Apostle?
Well, no, but I would like to say this, because in coaching, we deal with this quite a bit in what we call relational anxiety, where people are in anxiety. They're in a relationship or entering into a relationship, and they find themselves having panic attacks or anxiety attacks, or just that sense of anxiety. And a lot of that, of course, stems from the past.
Yes.
Bad relationships that they were in. I recall talking to somebody just a while ago where they connected with the person, and they went on, quote, the first date. Walked in a room. They ended up running. They saw the person, they said hi, and then all of a sudden it just kind of hit them. Relational anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that can hinder you ever having a relationship, or
Mm-hmm.
people having a relationship with you. So
right.
That's another thing to that we're seeing, is what's called relational anxiety.
Oh, good point. Good point. Anyone else? I do have a chat from Shelley. Says anxiety passed from those in your life who are. Yes, I was going to talk about that, Shelley. You're absolutely right. When somebody else is dealing with something, and then now you become anxious, and you actually, well, it was like with my uncle when he was saying that when he was talking to me when my other uncle was not feeling well, and he decided that he was telling me that he was getting anxious, and he decided, I'm not going to go there because that's not going to help and isn't going to help him. So yeah, you can actually have that anxiety, where you become anxious because someone else is operating in anxiety. Very good point. Very. Okay. Another like kind of example with that, what Shelley was saying is like maybe you're somewhere and somebody gets hurt. Okay, and there, of course, they're panicking, possibly they got their leg cut pretty bad, and they're looking and they're panicking and they're starting to breathe fast, and and you could be there by them and actually start to get the symptoms of anxiety. It's not happening to you, and that's a good example. It's passed from another person, and you don't even have to know the person. Okay. So you can start, and that's why one of the things with anxiety, you've got to deal with it. What it wants you to do is it wants you to not deal with it. Your natural response is to find some way to ease the pain, medicate, numb the pain, but you really have to look at it, because it could be something that's going on that you can actually get some power to create from, or something that you need to pull down and say, no, that's not, that's of the enemy that's trying to bring fear, and I'm not going there. Okay. Diane says, I experienced anxiety most of my life and got diagnosed with, what is that called? It's a phobia, I know, but
Acrophobia.
what is it called, baby? Diane, can you take yourself off mute? Diane?
Agoraphobia.
Okay. And what is that phobia of? Because there are a lot of phobias, you guys. I mean, there are a lot of them. I didn't realize that there are phobias there are phobias where people are afraid of Black people. They actually have a phobia. There are phobias where people are afraid of Hispanic people. I mean, this is crazy. There are phobias where people are afraid of white people, and they actually go into actual panic attacks and fear grips them when they're around those people. So you see, these things are very evil. Okay. So Diane said it's the fear of everything. Oh my God. Yeah. See what I mean? This is we got to deal with it, you guys. So I don't think this subject is pretty. I don't think it's off. I don't think. I mean, I hope it's not boring you, but I'm telling you, you need this. You need this to live and know how to deal with life. Okay, and what is the appropriate way to deal with things. So thank you, Diane, for yes.
Hey, you guys, it's Kaya.
Hi, Kaya.
Hey, Mama. So yeah, I think this is a great lesson. Like this is awesome. This is, it's, I hope you put this up on YouTube, by the way, so I can, because I missed a few minutes of it. But
Okay.
yeah, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety for a long time. Like even like especially in high school, my younger days. Well, I'm still young, but in my younger days in high school, I had really bad anxiety, like to the point where I felt like I was having panic attacks. I never got medication for anything. I just had to learn how to cope with it. I didn't cope with it well, and one of my methods for coping with anxiety would be I would not go to school. I would slept a whole lot. I ate really bad too. I'm from a family of 5, so we kind of McDonald's, French fries, sugar, honey buns. That was just kind of like our meal. So that was really bad for my anxiety. All I wanted to do was just sleep. Like I just wanted to run away from everything. I didn't want to deal with anybody. I isolated myself. It hindered me from a lot of stuff. Relationships too. And another thing, well, now, I still deal with anxiety, but it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Like it was terrible before, but one of the things I do now is I just eat healthy. And I eat healthy, I take my supplements, but I still have that fatigue in me. And the Holy Spirit actually just dealt with me today. I was just like, it was like, I need to start running or like exercising or, doing something to keep myself active. So I just think that was really cool that you guys brought that up, because that is something that I think would help, just being proactive and eating healthy, my vitamins, listening to you guys, reading, all that stuff plays a part in the healing process, and you just get better, once you just constantly and be consistent with doing these things, it gets better over time.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks, Kaya. Kaya, you said, did you deal with it? Well, guess what? We all deal with it. It is an emotion. And it is, the problem is that we're going to talk about when you try to do what? Suppress it. And that's what a lot of people do. But it's not good when you suppress anxiety. Okay? That's not the way you deal with it. So we're going to talk about that. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to finish it up tonight, but we're going to talk about it. Okay, I've got some things here in the chat. I want to go ahead and try to get some answers here. Okay, Gladys said, isn't, hold on just a second, let me get it back. Isn't most anxiety based in fear? See, remember I said anxiety is similar to fear. Some of the symptoms are similar to fear, but they're different. And we're going to talk about how they're different, okay? So good question. Gladys. And then, okay, this is JB. JB says, learning to turn to Jesus, the Lord, to talk yourself down at first sign of it made my chronic anxiety disappear. Reading the word right away will give you power with dealing with anxiety. Oh, I love you, JB. That's why you're sharing some on my list of things to do. I haven't gotten to it yet, but you're right in there. Those are some of the things that, ways that you deal with anxiety that I'm going to share with you. So it's really good. Thank you. Okay. Velta says, when do you know if anxiety is a spiritual attack? Okay. Good point. These are some great questions. All right. Now, anxiety is not a spiritual attack. It's when you don't deal with it, and you allow fear to come in. Fear is a spirit, okay? So, when I get through explaining why anxiety is, what the purpose of anxiety is an emotion, it's not something that we should be afraid of or try to numb or try to avoid or try to suppress. That's not the purpose of it. We're defeating the purpose of it. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. Okay, good, very good question. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Precious answered. She says, "Thanks, Precious. Anxiety can bring on fear and a spiritual attack. That's what we're going to talk about. When you try to suppress anxiety, or you deal with it the wrong way, then it can lead to the spirit of fear. Okay, coming in and attacking. Right? Okay. Okay. Diane says, what helped me was exercise and to always take deep breaths. Always know where my heart is. Isn't that amazing, Diane? You guys are getting right into my little list. I got I got a little list that some things I was sharing, like physical things, but I want to share what we're to do, what God has given us spiritually about this. And great comments. Thank you guys for being interactive. I love when you guys interact because it really helps me not to be nervous and not to have anxiety.
Can I say
Okay.
Can I say something about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
To the question about when is anxiety a spiritual issue or a demon or what have you, and you got to look at anxiety as like I could call it a pathway emotion.
It's emotion, right?
Right.
It's not a demon.
It's not a demon. Now there's some that would maybe say they don't agree with that, and that's fine. But in what I'm seeing in how the demonic, the dark underworld works is the emotional arena, and that which is in our subconscious is how they're going to operate. And anxiety, if it's not addressed the correct way, it can be a gateway for demons to enter in. Just like what was just said, it can lead to fear. Okay, fear brings torment. Fear, that's demonic. That's a demon. It can lead to depression. Okay, again, depression, heaviness of heart, that's a demon. So again, you have to look at it as it's very important, but not everything is a demon.
Right.
Okay, not everything's a demon, but it can lead to demons
if you do not deal with it properly. Okay, you have to deal with it properly. And like I said, what we normally want to do when we become anxious is we want to numb it. We want to suppress it. And boy, my time is just gone, you guys. And most of the time, the reason why we do it, what we do with anxiety, is because of how people react to our anxiety. Okay, so this is, I got so much more to share with you. We're going to have to, of course, pick this up next week, and I'm going to share with you, get into it, even to the part where Apostle kind of shared a little bit about, where anxiety is not demonic. It's not a demonic attack. Anxiety is, God put anxiety in us, and it has a purpose. Just like our natural fear has a purpose to protect us, anxiety its purpose is really to protect us. It's another protective measure of what God's put in us, but it's not something demonic. So I want to make that real clear, okay? And I want you to understand that it is a part of the human. It's a part of our nature. It's not a flaw. So I'm glad that my little precious one said, about her being. She said she's like, I'm about a lot. Well, it's not a flaw. Anxiety is not a flaw. Okay. It's just. Everybody at some time or another should have experienced anxiety at some point, where it is protecting you, and it's a form. We'll get into it more next week. But I want you to know that it's a very useful emotion if you know how to use it. Okay, it's very useful in that it will, like fear, similar to fear, it gives you like an awareness of a potential attack, a potential threat. All right. So it's important, because if you suppress it and you numb it, then you could become unaware of something that could potentially be harmful. All right. So let me see. I got my time gone, you guys. All right. So next week we're going to go into completing this on anxiety and talking about, putting your faith in God, putting your faith in the Word, and how you do not use your faith as a tool to cause fear. Your belief system. I'm sorry. Use your belief system to use fear, to bring fear in, because fear does bring torment. Okay. So I'm real quickly going to kind of share these chats with, because the people on the phone, they can't hear, they can't see the chats, and I'd like for them to be able to hear what everyone is saying. Okay, yeah. Good point, James, saying when you're on, mute your phone, because we can hear everything. We can hear you typing, we can hear your background noise, we can hear everything. So please mute your phone when you come on. You have to mute on your side, because I've taken everyone off mute. I really hate to put you guys on mute. But anyway, Precious says, I like that pathway or gateway. Okay. Another thing, Precious said, it's an alert. See what I mean? That's why you don't want to numb it. All right. Stacey says, exercise, eating healthy, knowing who you are in Christ are keys to help you beat anxiety. Learning how to properly process your emotion helps also. Stuffing your feelings is never good. That's it. Stuffing your feelings down, suppressing your feelings, not a good thing, because they're given to us for a purpose. Okay. Delta said, I can tell that I'm going to really get answers to so many questions I have with this ministry. Thanks. This is my first time. Yes, it is. Thank you, Velta, for joining us. I'm so blessed that you're here. Okay. And then Gladys says, thanks, Dixie. Good, great topic. Praise God. So we're gonna dive into this, and it's gonna help us to understand that, we've been taught things that are it's just religious. It's just things that we've heard that are they're fallacies. They're not truth. And then what it makes you do, now you're trying to think you got a demon when you're becoming anxious about something, and instead of dealing with the anxiety, you're trying to run away or shut up in Jesus' name, or cast out a demon, and then you wonder, well, it ain't casting out because it ain't a demon. All right. Well, look, you guys, God bless you.